hardest and worst day of residency.
Yeah, so I won't eat the much.
How are you doing today?
Good, how are you? Yay!
Yesterday was my last day as an intern resident, and I am officially a PGY2 to celebrate not only that, but a lot more honestly important things like our anniversary and Madison's birthday. I kind of just randomly told her that we were going on a vacation.
You were like dropping hints throughout the week, like we might be going somewhere, don't get a lot of groceries, airplane emoji, sun emoji.
Madison and I have been in an absolute grind of a season. Between residency and a newborn, there is little to no sleep happening, and funny enough, we're actually tracking how bad this is.
All right, so this is Madison's score. She got a glaringly dangerous score of 59 with about 3.5 hours of sleep. She got one full cycle in there. I didn't do much better here. I got a score of 40, only 2 hours and 15 minutes of sleep, but we got that full cycle, so we're clearly pretty tired, but that's what vacation's for. We're gonna recover and enjoy this time, and I'll talk to you guys a little bit more about what intern year is actually like when we take this. Oh, when we take this.
Orlando! Oh my gosh! We're going to Orlando!
Unfortunately, our flight got delayed 6 hours, and instead of getting tight, which is what I wanted to do, me and my wife just chilled. We've actually been practicing this kind of art of inconvenience tolerance, because if I can't handle a delayed flight without spiraling, how am I going to survive intern year, where everything is basically inconvenience? Most residents complain their way through it, but that constant venting starts to shape your identity. Practicing gratitude and patience outside of the hospital actually makes it easier to hold on to them inside. And that mindset shift is everything. Okay, we have finally gotten to Orlando.
When you graduate from medical school and finally become a doctor, you enter what is probably the most stressful year of your professional career. You are now responsible of actually caring for people's healthcare, which is pretty important, but you also have zero experience and very little knowledge, despite whatever you learned in medical school. I'm about to have them baby giraffe legs for the rest of the trip. The main thing that I learned about intern year is it really is the year of learning. And as a medical student, you think that that learning is equivalent to the way that you learn in medical school through either hand holding in the clinic or reading things or Anki or videos. And in reality, as a resident, you are now a real active member of the healthcare team. Your learning comes on the job primarily through experience. And human nature has it that the way we learn through experience is usually in the form of failing, shortcomings, doing something a little bit inefficient or ineffective, and then learning better ways to do it from there. That is what learning as an intern really is. It's not about the book stuff. It's not about, you know, the clinical things. You're gonna learn those things too, but the primary form of learning is experiential, because you're starting with an experience base of essentially zero. But that being said, a hack is trying to learn as much from other people's experience as possible. So that means asking senior residents how they do things, asking other people some of the things that they did that they wish they didn't do, that they did that they're glad that they did. Learning from other people's mistakes and shortcomings can sometimes make it so that you don't have to deal with them yourself. But at the end of the day, you're still gonna deal with them. And that's just the nature of the beast.
Let me hold this. So what I also gathered from this first year was having like a group chat and just open communication between your co-residents is really important, so that you can talk about your failures, not always just talk about your successes, because that's not like reality. I was not looking at the camera, so probably not the best views while I was pushing the stroller. What I was saying though is having open communication with your co-residents is going to be extremely helpful, not only for yourself and your classmates to learn from your experiences, but also to make sure that whatever happened to the patient doesn't happen to someone else.
Madison and I are celebrating our 7th anniversary. I'm reflecting on just how much she's basically responsible for all the success I've had so far. She's lifted me up during the wins, comforted me during the lows, and just helped me stay grounded through it all. I genuinely can't imagine doing this year and basically every year without her. People always ask how I balance residency and having a family, but the truth is, I don't know how I would do the residency without the family. Madison's support has really carried me in ways that I can't even explain. And being a dad, that is just something that I've always wanted, and I never really bought into that idea that you have to choose between building a family or building a career. Yeah, it's definitely hard sometimes. There are some nights where the babies don't be sleeping, but being a husband and a father are the most fulfilling titles that I'll ever hold. And this clip right here is us watching our 3-year-old back home with his grandparents absolutely crushing his track meet. As a former track athlete, you know I'm proud, but when I'm old, I'll care way more about the family that I build rather than the career that I retire from.
Madison brought up a great point about creating a culture where you are showing the realities of your experience for the betterment of the people around you. So don't be the person saying you just did skin to skin, or you essentially did the entire procedure from start to finish all by yourself, because no, you didn't. Instead, what is much better is being somebody who can share their experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly, in a way that is transparent and vulnerable, and thus allowing people to learn from your experiences and not Instagramanizing your experience. And I'm making that word up, but basically making everything seem great on your end when in reality it's not. Because when you do that, then everybody around you is going to feel a certain way about their own experience, feeling that it's lesser, feeling that they're the only people experiencing challenges. And in reality, they are not. And this brings me to a story about probably the hardest and worst day of residency, where I made a mistake that I had to learn from, and I want to share that with you guys.
So while I was on call, I got a page that just said curbside with a callback number. Curbside is essentially, quick question, just need a little bit of advice. So call the page back, and it's the hematology team. There's a patient who has metastatic cancer, and he has metastatic lesions to his femurs and just other bony mets, and they're asking about weight-bearing recommendations and saying that this patient is on the way out the door, basically about to discharge, but before he leaves, they just wanted to follow up with the orthopedic surgery team to discuss weight-bearing restrictions. And while the primary team is giving me the update on this patient, I'm just scrolling through their images, their PET scan, their CT, and noticing a relatively dangerous lesion, a lesion that would put the patient at risk for potentially fracturing their femur, which makes me nervous. So as the intern, most interns prefer to play things as safe as possible, which is what I wanted to do in this case. And what I did is I told the primary team that I recommend painless weight bearing. So if there's any pain at all, don't walk on it. And to follow up with our orthopedic oncology team as soon as possible. And I wrote this in a note and just was hoping that the patient would not fracture their femur before seeing us in the clinic. 2 days later, I get an email from our orthopedic oncology consultant, and he says he saw my note
and basically saw that I had allowed a patient who was at risk for fracture to leave the hospital. Now, thank God, this patient did not actually have a fracture, but the risk was there. And I didn't do the right thing, which would have been to hang up the phone and tell the primary team that I will call them back after I talk with my senior resident. End up telling the primary team that we don't do curbsides, these kind of quick questions, that they need to place a formal consult so that we can go and see the patient to really evaluate them in order to provide ideal recommendations. And that was a learning opportunity for me personally. But the reason why I share this story is, of course, if you've had any instances like this yourself, you know that you're not alone. But two, and more importantly, after I experienced this, where I made a mistake and could have handled something better, instead of keeping that to myself, one thing that I did, with the help of the consultant and a senior resident, was I actually put together a PowerPoint presentation on this case so that my colleagues could learn from it and see a situation that they may be exposed to in the future and how I handled it, and then how they could potentially handle it differently and better using my experience to learn from. So not only was it an opportunity to share with them a mistake that I made, but more importantly, make it so that they don't have to make that mistake themselves. It's better for them, but most importantly, it's better for patient care. And that is a type of culture that I think you should be trying to aim for cultivating during your first year of residency with your co-residents.
All right, a few rapid fire questions for the wife. She doesn't know any of these questions. She always wants to know beforehand, but I don't tell her.
That's not fair. One of the best pieces of advice that I got from a wife with kids, she was like, have like little to no expectation.
Yeah.
Just have no expectations. It's like you expect to like have dinner every night. Like that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
No, it's not realistic. Or like, let's have breakfast in the morning. Like, no, it's over with. Like,
Morning breakfast is definitely wraps. What do you think
game show.
is the most important thing for a successful intern year?
Ooh, that's not just one thing.
You just get one thing.
If you want to be the most successful individual that you can be in your intern year, I would say is humility. You're gonna make mistakes, and it's okay. And when you don't think you are going to, you're gonna make even bigger mistakes. So that could be really dangerous too. And so knowing that you are gonna need help, and there are 2s and 3s and 4s and 5s who are there, who've been there, who want to help you. I think that's part of the humility piece, is if you don't have that, then you're not going to reach out for help, because you're going to need help.
I like that. And I love that I was literally talking about this in the car when you weren't in the car. So that I think reiterates that point. And on that note, the last tangible piece of advice that I have for all interns, really anybody, is build a good first impression that sets the foundation for your reputation throughout your workspace. And in medicine, that reputation carries, and it will define your experience. When you have a good reputation throughout the hospital, the mistakes that you make, which again we have really emphasized that you will make them, are perceived differently. People who are perceived to be hardworking, responsible, respectful workers, when they make a mistake, it's interpreted as, oh, I can definitely see how this happened, or I understand, I've made that before, and it's a lot more understanding. People who develop a first impression that leads to people's perception of you being irresponsible or not hardworking, then when you make a mistake, it becomes, oh, of course that happened to them. And doing that over and over again, time after time, will lead to a reputation that you will not be able to climb out from. And then that's when you put yourself in a dangerous position.
I think one of the like mottos or slogans or whatever you want to call it that we keep coming back to is you are there to work. Don't try to like switch your schedule to make it easier on yourself. You are there to work. Let's just get that straight and work hard. Do it.
If you take that, look, if you take that mindset, people will respect that and be like, I already like this person. You're there to work.
All right, y'all, we're leaving Orlando, which means we will see y'all back in Rochester, Minnesota. If you enjoyed this video, I know that you will absolutely love this one, where you can see a little bit about more what life in Rochester, Minnesota looks like at the Mayo Clinic. And as always, keep evolving, and we'll see you guys in the next one.